Homelessness and Poverty Committee hearing of the new year and new decade. Thank all of you for making time out of your day to come and participate in your city government and this committee. We have full quorum, all members present, and I'd like to convene the meeting. And colleagues, I'd like to start first with multiple item comments and then go to all other comments after that. And so that's what we'll do if there are no objections to that. We'll start with multiple items filled out on the docket, starting with Mike Greenspan. And it looks like you have multiple items and general. So, Mr. Greenspan, are you present?
Yes, let me just get one piece of paper I'm looking for.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Mr. Greenspan, we'll come back to you. We have Adam R. And we'll come back to Mr. Greenspan. Adam R., so what we'll do is you can have 1 minute for your general public comment and then 2 minutes for all the other items. And your items are 10, 12, and 13. 2 minutes for those items, 1 minute for general public.
Well, Happy New Year. Welcome back. Now, mind you, in your break, 3 people a day were still dying on the streets of Los Angeles. Unfortunately, we don't really see in this agenda much that would help. We see $14 million that you want to bring in to provide temporary shelter and services. We see another $6 million. I'm trying. Yeah, but there's nothing here about permanent supportive housing. Now, we did have the opening of Triple H housing, which is beautiful. That's beautiful. Unfortunately, it's not enough. We also had, right before the holiday, someone freeze on your doorstep. Death came to the doorstep of City Hall. And we saw the usual shuffling. We saw everybody out front saying what a tragedy it was, how horrible it is, what a human crisis we have here in Los Angeles. It's funny, it wasn't a human crisis when this very body was attempting to pass 4118, something that would have put a stand your ground law on the streets of Los Angeles, something that would have basically made it illegal to sleep anywhere in the city. Unfortunately, we also see moves towards that now. But we also see a refusal to accept responsibility from y'all. I mean, Mitch, what was up with that Echo Park thing? I mean, seriously. It was a pass the football back and forth. Was it the park people that put up the notices? It's okay, we could just roll with my general comment.
1 more minute for general public comment. Yeah.
And I know that you claim not to know that there was a suite, but we caught pictures of you riding by, hanging out. You were looking for Triple H housing? Well, the sweep was going on in your district that you didn't know about. A sweep that would have displaced dozens of people, put them on the sidewalk. Yeah, we do have you on video. That's right. That's right. Craig will tell you all about that. But it's that sort of hypocrisy that makes us sit here and think that you are not serious about stopping this crisis of 3 people a day dying on the street. Over 1,000 people died just last year. And whose hands is that blood on? It's on yours, Mr. O'Farrell. Yours, Mr. Harris Dawson. Yours too, Mike. I know you like to play progressive, but it's on yours. Your failure to act, your failure to do anything except give up to the developers who fund your campaigns.
Mike Greenspan, 2 minutes for multiple items and 1 minute for general public comment.
Happy New Year. Mike Greenspan, an Orange Bowl champion Florida Gator, and UCLA, I don't. Well, I do want to talk, I see a couple items are with Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, funding sources. Boy, that's been quite a controversial thing. Somebody's been telling me one thing happened. Mr. Herman was approached by them, and we thought, oh, we're going to be able to put him in housing. And I later bumped into him and asked, well, what happened? He said, well, they wanted to classify him as a drug addict because they get funding if they've got drug addicts. It's like you get these extra bonus points to get extra money. And he said no. He wouldn't go along with the lies. And I've heard that Lasha has had, recently somebody ended up resigning. Lasha's had lots of, I guess, scandals. I guess they're just waiting for a grand jury to do a lot of investigations, and people will go where they belong, and they'll have housing in our state, courtesy of the state of California, and gee, that'll be just too bad, but at least they can make a license plate. And one guy, Bill Ansel, has a Rolls Royce. Yes, Rolls Royce Bill. Isn't that wonderful? We need to have Rolls Royces for people working with homeless people. Obviously, the money is not trickling down where it should. So I was critical. I was not supportive of Measure HHH because I always thought it would get misused. It was well-intentioned, but it would never get to the people that it should go to, create a lot of upper middle class bureaucracy jobs, but as far as providing the service, I didn't think that it really would. So, and as we wind down, I'll get ready for my public comment. Okay. After all, what a disastrous season for UCLA. More losses at the expense of the taxpayers and homeless support services. Now, we all know Chip Kelly lives in a nice house. He's the coach of the UCLA team that can't win a game, but can find ways to lose. And, of course, he cost us taxpayers $3 million a year, so we know he lives in a nice house. How many of you folks on the committee make $3 million a year? You guys work for the public. Well, so does Chip Kelly. Anyway, the thing should be where we could blue pencil the football budget, transfer the money from the state level to the local county level with a homeless support service other than LASHA, and then we could actually put that money to use for a winner of a cause instead of a loser of a football team. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars, folks, just going down the drain. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there are two Pats. Single name, Pat? Okay. Pat, are you on there twice accidentally? All right, so I have you down for 11 items, including general public.
Okay.
Actually, no general public, just the items.
No, I have general public also.
You do?
Always.
Okay, maybe that's where it is.
Always.
Okay, so you get 2 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public.
Okay, thank you. I'm very proud to say that I believe that I am the reason why the director of LASA resigned. I did research and found out that most of the housing was going to illegal aliens. Handful of African Americans got it. Hispanics, Latinos, Asians, and Filipinos. That's why we got 20,000 on Skid Row, African Americans, and they're all over the city. So he's gone, and now I see on the agenda you want them to be accountable for the money. I'm doing your job. This is your job. I'm not getting paid for this, but I love my people, and I want them off the street. See, the money, this discrimination is coming from the social service agencies. That's where it's coming from. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, and I think some of you are, but it's coming from them, from PATH. I'm working on PATH right now. They're the ones sending all these people to Skid Row. And I have people who told me they go to these, when they get out of the jail, the women in Linwood, they're not sent into the community. They're sent to Skid Row, the African Americans. That's why we've got so many of them down there. So we've got some lawsuits, some big ones, and the city isn't going to be involved in these lawsuits. Now, drug addicts, I've been told also that they're giving them drugs. Why do we have so many mental ill people? We've never had that. They're giving them, forcing drugs on them. Yes, in the shelters and in the jails. Psych drugs. That's why they're coming out mentally ill. You think you're going to kill more people? You're wrong. We are God's chosen. You're going down, not us. We do give birth to children. You don't. You kill. You kill babies. Okay? Now, here's another thing. I want an account of where this money is going with the city. I have the HHH funding, not the funding, but what you've been doing with that money. This one development has all of them are studios. This is HHH money now, all of them, 34 studios. And guess how much you allow this developer to charge per studio? $346,000 per unit. That's your job to make sure this does not happen. Okay? That's your job. You're supposed to, this same report I got, you have access to it. It's public information. When you see that a studio is being built for $346,000, one studio apartment, you know how big that is. It's not big at all. You would go into fits. You would stop that. So you're giving away our HHH money, but you're not just giving it away. See, I'm from Chicago. I know the game. You're getting kickbacks. That's why you allow this. But let me tell you something. This world is bigger than some furniture, a house, a car, a plane. It's a spiritual world. I can take you out spiritually. I don't have to deal with you on a physical level. And you're going down. You're going down for what you're doing to my people. You got all these illegal aliens, and you want the border walls torn down so you can bring in more to kill my people. Put them on the street. But it's not going to work that way. You're going to be on the street, and you're going to pay, and your children and your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are going to pay for every black person that died on the street of this city and this nation. God bless President Trump.
All right, next we'll hear from Craig R. 1 minute for general public comment and 2 minutes for your items, 10, 12, and 13.
God bless President Trump. Ooh. Feel like I'm following comedy. Yeah, Craig R., LA Can. And it is a new year, but I can't wish you a happy new year because while you were gone, of course, with 1,000 people a year on the streets of LA who are homeless, dying, of course, 3 a day died every day you were gone on average. And that's, of course, not even counting the murderous behavior of LAPD killing unarmed homeless people on the streets. I mean, that's a real thing. But I would like to talk about 3 items, items 12, 13, and 10. One I'm for, one I'm against, and one I just want to question. When it comes to item 12, the $6 million for eviction prevention, I'm all for that. That sounds like a great idea. Now, when it comes to item 13, $8 million for a navigation center. Sounds like too much and too vague. Too much money and too vague a purpose, and lack of accountability for quote-unquote navigation centers in the past. I'm not buying that one. Now that leaves my questions about item 10. Item 10, sponsored by, motion by Marquise Harris Dawson, Michael Farrell, Current Hazard Price, and the Invisible Man, Jose Huizar. Just trying to check and see if he's in the room. It's kind of hard to see sometimes. Maybe the FBI is talking to him right now. But
1 additional minute.
what you people need to do is figure out some way to spend $14 million as a down payment on solution to the problem, which is housing, instead of some more bullshit temporary shelters and temporary services, which seems to be a never-ending merry-go-round based on the NPIC, the non-profit industrial complex. In the hood, we just call them poverty pimps. I'd like to see you do some more meaningful stuff. You seem to have intelligence, you have time. You're back from your vacations, and you want to make it a happy new year. Do some more effective stuff, especially you, MHG. 3 a day are dying. And remember, house keys, not handcuffs.
All right. Next we have Devin. And Devin, you fill out a comment card for general public. And item number 10, you get 1 minute for each. Devin.
all. My name is Devon Williams, South Central native, entrepreneur, and basically from what I'm hearing from all these meetings I'm coming to about the homeless crisis is the same thing over and over. It's basically repeating and repeating and repeating. We all know that housing is like the solution to all this and such, but basically what I'm learning from our community is because I'm pretty young, I'm 23, and I attend all the neighborhood councils, which is the Slank, the Equa, the Zapata King on Avalon, which is all districts between Kern Price and Marquise Dawson. And I agree with the funding item number 12 because my sister is currently in the Volunteers of America program, which supplies temporary housing, but the lease expired because they didn't receive enough funding. So basically she's going to be she's going to be homeless basically because she can't go back home. And I want to think of solutions that will help solve this problem because it's been going on for too long. In 1960...
That's okay. One more minute for... You filled out Devon, correct?
Correct. Devon is my real name,
okay,
but
it's
pronunciation.
So
it goes.
One more full minute?
Yeah, and so basically what I've been looking up the homeless crisis is because I've been looking in the past ways. 1966, I believe, the Summer Olympics happened, and they actually cleared the homeless from the whole LA district, and they just vanished in the thin air. I'm pretty sure people know about this. Basically, it's something to like Orange County, and they basically got rid of them just for this event. And as we all know, the Summer Olympics is coming up again in 2028, I believe. And the one thing I fear, if we don't solve this crisis before then, the same thing, history will repeat itself. So basically, they're vanished again without no solutions. And that's why I believe either the two things that I believe that might happen will either be that one, they end up vanishing, or we can have a state of emergency. Because this is a real crisis, you know. It's like people dying on the street during the wintertime and just, I don't know. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. Devon Williams, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Devon. Thank you. All right, we have Trevor Kale. Trevor, item number 7, item number 10. And you have 2 minutes for the 2 items.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks, everyone, for your leadership on this. My name is Trevor Kale. I'm from Chrysalis. We're a nonprofit that's been working in Los Angeles, started in Skid Row in the mid-'80s, so over 35 years now, working every day on this issue. And we wanted to support more resources coming to the community. We all know that housing and jobs is imperative. We've been working for 3 years on item number 7 and hopeful to employ up to 300 community members in these jobs to beautify the city and have the opportunity to turn their life around. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so that concludes general public comments. So general public comment is now closed, but we do have several other comments on the items. Actually, there are some that are just only general public comments, so we'll move forward with those, but the comment form is closed. But we have Ace Catano. Ace, 1 minute for general public comment.
Good afternoon, folks. Ace Catano, Ground Game LA, Ask Me Local 148. I'm here today to call on all of you to end the sweeps of the unhoused that are occurring in your districts. There must be an absolute moratorium on these sweeps in the lead up to the point in time count for the homelessness count. What is happening right now is purely going to distort a clear picture of the scope of the problem that we are facing in Los Angeles, and the people of Los Angeles deserve to know the truth about homelessness in this city. It is clear that these are police-led sweeps that are intended to displace people. They are not LAHSA-led sweeps intended to provide services. There must be a moratorium on these sweeps until that count has been completed, ideally beyond that. But for the moment, we need to focus on making sure that the people of Los Angeles get an accurate picture of what's going on, and you each need to use your powers to make sure that that happens in your districts.
All right, we'll move into the individual items, and we have Adeline Bertha for item number 10. And for the individual items, you get 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Adeline Bertha with USEP, a drug prevention program of Social Model. I support this request for item number 10. There continues to be a great need for resources and services in Skid Row. The Refresh Spot, which opened in 2017, saw 252 first-timers last month, and service were accessed nearly 24,000 times. The creation of living wage jobs for those with lived experiences and the input of community groups such as the Skid Row Improvement Coalition are critical to addressing local need. The creation and expansion of safe community spaces and local programming to meet and address these immediate needs of the unhoused are also essential. We must make all the available avenues to get the feedback and input of those impacted and invest in creative, non-punitive strategies. Examples like a community center, expanded park hours, Wi-Fi, and a mail service, a resource that just closed. These essential community supports help to link the unhoused to resources that enhance wellness and reduce and prevent risk.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We have Alex Sanchez for item number 4. Alex Sanchez.
Good afternoon. My name is Alex Sanchez. I'm with Homies Unidos. We do violence prevention intervention, but we've also been working around issues of unaccompanied minor for some time now. We have an annual conference where we bring resources for youth, over 550 youth that we bring. We're having it in May. And shelter and homelessness is one of the things that we don't have any services for this youth. Many of these youth have find themselves in encampments throughout MacArthur Park and Koreatown area. They are not being serviced. There's no funding directed to this population, so we strongly push for some action in regards to the city to start addressing services directly to this youth that are culturally irrelevant to them. It's hard to navigate the systems for this youth because of the linguistic issue, and also their needs are different from others. So we strongly push for a change.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have Claudia Oliveira. Item number 11.
Hi, I'm Claudia Oliveira, Downtown Los Angeles Neighborhood Council, a co-chair of Government Liaison, Historic Corps Resident Director. I am here to ask for not just the 14, not just the amount to be allocated for CD14, but virtually anything that CD14 needs when it comes to funds. We should really take a serious look at it because we are carrying the biggest responsibility when it comes to homelessness, and whatever is it that we need the money for, refresh spots or other bathrooms, any resources is not enough. We don't have enough. We need more and much, much more. So I'm asking not just for this one item, but for future items to come, that if we do ask you for funds, please allocate it to our district. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. We have Allison Hurst, item number 11.
Hi. As you all know, the 2019 PIC count showed a 22% increase in youth homelessness from 2018, with just over 4,000 young people on our streets. I would first like to thank Councilmember Bonin and Councilmember Harris-Dawson for stepping up in support of increasing resources for our youth in our community. I urge you not to overlook the unique needs of youth. We have come a long way as a system in recognizing that youth access services differently. It is well researched that services specifically tailored to meet the needs of youth that provide access to workforce development, health and wellness services, along with housing resources, are essential in diverting the number of youth that are falling into the homeless system. We know that they're entering the system at a higher rate than any other population. And I urge you to prioritize and double the stated minimum amount and allow our unhoused youth the opportunity to thrive, not just survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Schallert. Allison Schallert. 1 minute for general.
Schallert. Good to see you.
Good to see you. 1 minute for general public comment.
Okay, so I'm frustrated because I feel like I do a lot of work advocating for the positive things you guys do. It's a big part of our mission at Stories from the Frontline to back you and promote you and get out there and try to educate the public. I spend a lot of time in Lincoln Heights trying to get them to back the 5 lots. I'm frustrated because I feel like y'all are just going to go home from here and not do anything about the sweeps. I feel like y'all are just going to go home and not call and try to do something to get these sweeps not from not happening. I feel like you need to creatively think ahead about going into solve parking problems before you come in with affordable housing. For example, on Gramercy, neighbors voted against it. The only reason why they voted against it because there was not enough parking. So you guys need to work harder. You need to be better.
Thank you. Anna Minari. Anna Minari, item number 4, 1 minute.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ana Minauri, and I'm here representing Homies Unidos. I'm the program director and case manager there, and we do violence prevention and gang intervention services, specifically working with undocumented youth and immigrant youth. And housing has definitely been one of the most critical issues, so I urge you to consider intentional methods of supporting youth who, many of them are here lawfully seeking immigration relief, right? Based on their experiences, they don't have no place to live. The housing sweeps are affecting them. I have youth calling me because they need a tent because LAPD came by and took their tent when it's raining outside, and I think that's inhumane, and I think that you all as a committee should be working to address that for these youth who are especially vulnerable to being criminalized while out on the streets. And then the community turns around and says, look, they're criminals just like we said they are, but no, they're being criminalized because they're homeless.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's the whole reason for item number 4 and why I introduced it, so that these unaccompanied minors would have a place to sleep and have services around them. Next we have Barbara Schultz, 1 minute for item number 12.
Good afternoon. Barbara Schultz, Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles and the LA Renters Right to Counsel Coalition. We strongly support the funding under item number 12 for phase 1 of Right to Counsel, and we hope that this will be able to grow in the future so that we can encompass more zip codes. It's incredibly important to stem the flow into homelessness, and we think this will go a great way to doing that. We would like to urge you to ensure that the majority of this funds do go to direct tenant eviction prevention and representation services. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Carlos Ardon. Carlos Ardon for item number 4. Good afternoon.
Okay. Well, basically, it's the we're supporting item 4 because we have a lot of kids that are without documents, living on the streets. They are victims of gangs. They are victims of gangs. They're victims of violence and also a lot of drug addiction. So we really encourage if you can give funding and support organizations like Salef. We at Clínica Romero, we are supporting them. I mean, giving them health services, but we need to do a little bit more. We need to see how these poor kids are being out of the street and placed in shelters where they can at least have a shot of living in Los Angeles. Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, sir. Chris Roth, 1 minute for general public comment.
Good afternoon, Council. I am here to echo the sentiments that Ace so eloquently put forward earlier. The idea that we would continue to play a sadistic game of hot potato with the homeless individuals who are having to struggle to survive on our streets by having these vicious and cruel sweeps continuing to displace folks and just have to move from one street to the next. That's not solving the problem. We all know that. And having any of these sweeps taking place in the lead up to the the point in time count is just completely going to be distorting the reality and how we document it. And as Ace pointed out, the citizens of Los Angeles deserve to know just how bad this crisis is. And it's the only way that we're going to actually be able to meaningfully address it and target the appropriate numbers is if we actually do get a correct head count. And moving people around from one place to the other right in front of that sweep that's happening in a week is not going to help. Thanks.
Ilana Frey, item number 10, will be followed by Ellen Endo, followed by Emily Cantrom. If the three of you could step forward and take a seat, that would be great. Ilana Frey, 1 minute for item number 10.
So hello, my name is Alana, and I wanted to make a comment in support of Councilmember Bonin's motion to increase HHAPP funding for youth. Based on my experience, youth need more resources to get out of homelessness. When you invest in youth, it prevents long-term adult homelessness, which is much more difficult situation to demolish. I'm a former foster youth that currently works for a Safe Place for Youth to change this cycle. Luckily, I have Safe Place for Youth as my support system, but not all are as fortunate as me. I hope you really take some time to think about what our future is for Los Angeles facing the homelessness crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen Endo, followed by Emily Cantrom. Ellen Endo, item number 10. 1 minute.
Hi. I'm speaking today in favor of item number 10. I believe there's a need. This looks like a workable solution. I've seen it work over near El Pueblo, and you've got to start somewhere. So I hope you vote in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Followed after Emily Cantrom will be Greg Spiegel and Helen Folger. If you could step forward.
Good afternoon, Emily Cantrom, Safe Parking LA. It's nice to see so many of you here today. Thank you so much for all of the exciting things that are happening for safe parking programs. I wanted to comment on the concept of what is available for people with low acuity and low needs, how we call it in the continuum of care. So typically, this is a population that has fallen into homelessness for the first time. Typically, this is a perfect population for a safe parking program. And I want to share with you, we have a very big frustration with there actually not being any services besides safe parking for those people in a safe parking program. I did get guidance today on a LAHSA call that if after a year a safe parking participant is still in their vehicle and they haven't received any case management and they haven't self-resolved their housing issue, that we're doing something wrong.
A year?
So I want to assure all of you, it is very difficult for someone to find housing that is affordable. That's the real issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue to work through those issues so that that doesn't happen. So thank you. Greg Spiegel, followed by Helen Folger, followed by Jane Gwen.
Good afternoon, Greg Spiegel from Inner City Law Center. Wanted to voice, and the Right to Counsel Coalition, wanted to voice our support for item number 12, dedicating $6 million of HAP funding for eviction prevention and homeless prevention work. As you all know, 38 million homeless people in LA County permanently housed. That's fantastic. That's success. What's not success is the inflow, and that's why the streets don't look any different. This is $6 million is the best money you can spend. If we can keep people in their housing and not becoming homeless in the first place, it's the most efficient, it's the most compassionate thing we can do. So we're strong in support of item 12. In addition, I just want to add on to what other people have said about sweeps. I was coming over here, on my way over here, 3rd and Main, that intersection, there's a series of tents there, and there were 4 police officers in a squad car, but no outreach workers, nobody from LAHSA, nobody else, and they were knocking on tents and getting people to move. So that is happening, and it doesn't make sense right before the homeless count. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Good afternoon to everybody. I'm Helen from Safe Place for Youth, and I'm here to support Mike Bonin's motion and increasing HAP funds. And I would like to say, if the systems are not securing the future, the success of our young people, I believe it is in the hands of each and one of all of you, not just Mike Bonin and Marquise Dawson, that I'm grateful for showing immense allyship. I believe that everybody should take the step in providing more funds for the youth as we can prevent adulthood homelessness. And, you know, an effort a day leads to change, and like it or not, whether unhoused or housed, they are a part of your community.
Thank you. After Jane Gwen will be Jean, one name Jean, followed by Jenny Villegas.
Hi, this is Jane from K-Town for All. I'm here to ask a very simple request. It's the most uncontroversial thing possible, and I feel like everyone here could get behind this. We're calling for an end to the sweeps leading up to and during the homeless count. So whether or not you're acknowledging that these sweeps displace people, they clearly do. In the Sepulveda Basin, the sweeps started 2 weeks before the homeless count. They're still going on right now. Hundreds of people are being displaced. It's on the border of 2 other council districts, so if people cross the street, they're in another council district. Last year in Koreatown, there was a sweep at the largest encampment on the same day as the Koreatown homeless count. 5 tents were thrown out. The homeless count found that CD 13 had a decrease of 13 homeless people. So everyone here, if you're on your phone, please go to tinyurl.com/census-not-sweeps, sign on to our petition. Please protect the accuracy of the homeless count. That's the bare minimum that you can do. Thank you.
We have Jean, followed by Jenny Villegas, followed by Joella Hopkins.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Gene Choi. I'm a state employee, but I'm here in my individual capacity. I am also here to request that the city cease sweeps until the homeless count. And the way I see it is this. The current status quo is that this city is expending public resources to forcibly remove people from places they have called home. And the effects, not just in terms of that as a cruel and unusual punishment, but also in terms of miscounting the number of homeless people in the upcoming census, are severe. And the effect, the way I see it, is very simple. Beyond just the matter of resources and counting people, the very fundamental question in the census is, are you a person? And the current status quo is that the city is engaging in enforcement activities that are leading to the answer to be no for many people who are homeless. On the flip side, the request is very simple. 2 weeks, stopping enforcement, balancing those, the answer is very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny Villegas will be followed by Joella Hopkins and John Motter.
Hello, my name is Jenny Villegas. I'm an organizer with the Central American Resource Center, that is in LA. And I've worked very closely with Salef and Casa Libre. I'm the organizer for the Refugee Project. Most of my work revolves around working with unaccompanied migrant youth, both in their migratory journey and when they arrive here in the U.S. These are youth who are making this journey by themselves, who are arriving here by themselves, who are coming with immense amounts of trauma and have experienced and fled extreme violence. We have worked with these youth in LAUSD. There's not enough resources in the schools. And although we have legal resources in the city, we do not have any resources for housing, which is one of our biggest limitations. I think that I'm here to speak in favor of item number 4. I think this is a bare minimum we can do in order to give these kids a real safety net for them to be able to survive and thrive in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Joella Hopkins. I'm the Downtown Director for Council District 14. I'm here to request funding the $14 million for Skid Row. As you know, our office is at the ground zero of the homeless crisis, and 2,500 people every night sleep on the streets. And our office has absolutely been working towards hygiene, hydration stations, refresh spots, expanding the services that we have. Last year we have the $20 million that we've spent 19.5 so far. We would like the additional 14 to really now concentrate on providing beds. We've done over 1,400 beds thus far with the 19. We are looking to continue this, and the one thing that's really important for us to understand is even though these may seem like small impacts, each one is a piece to the puzzle. And the 14 million will continue to go towards that overall and large impact. So please help CD14. The council member would really like to ensure that we get this funding to move forward in our journey towards addressing the issue.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. John Motter will be followed by Joanne Kumamoto, followed by Michael Ashkenazi.
Yeah, I'm John Motter, and I'm fucking exhausted. I came straight here from the Schrader sweep. For those of you who don't know what a sweep is, it's when you forcibly displace people from your community, callously, like you would brush aside dirt or garbage. There were no resources there for anyone. Everyone who turned out to monitor it is broke the fuck off from hauling their belongings back and forth because no one employed by the city has any idea where to take it. We had to take it from the center of the zone all the way to the outside after trying to take it to Selma Park and other places. Several people there were in dire need of mental health counseling. There was no one there to provide it. I was worried one man was going to get shot like y'all did to Victor Valencia. No one there to provide medical attention people really needed. I know none of y'all care because I've been saying this for years, but I can at least say, Rue, I'm going to knock on thousands of doors against you, so this is it for you.
All right. So Joanne Kumamoto, followed by Michael Ashkenazi, followed by Robin Petering.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm here representing the Little Tokyo BID. Little Tokyo has not, up until the Mitchell decision, we were not considered part of Skid Row. Now we are. And I would hope that these fundings out of the item 10 can serve Little Tokyo. We have had no services in terms of housing or any kind of social services available to any of our homeless people. And we do have a homeless population in Little Tokyo that we would like to be able to offer these kinds of service to. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you interact with the deputy from Council District 14 who just spoke?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That would be good. Thank you. We have Michael Ashkenazi, Robin Petering, followed by Tom Kelly.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm here representing the Downtown Center BID. The homeless point and count, the homeless count for Council District 14 is up 11% year over year. And so I'm here in support of item number 10, the $14 million in funding to provide temporary shelter and services for individuals facing homelessness. We know that the Triple H housing is coming, but it's not coming soon enough, and this is a temporary measure in the meantime until we can get more and more and more permanent supportive housing.
Thank you. Is Tommy Kelly or Victor Montenegro here? You'll speak after Robin Petering.
Hi, everyone. I am here in support of item number 11, the motion that was put forward to increase youth funding from 8% to 16%. In strong support of the importance of this, and I really want to reiterate everything that Elena and Helen and Travis will say and our other young advocates and how strong their voices are and how they're able to advocate for themselves and their peers and how important that is and how we need to invest in our young people. And I'll talk about the boring stuff that 8%, what was originally in the original budget, that is the minimum requirement from the state. So already 9% of the overall homeless population is TAY. We know that investing upstream, again, will prevent long-term chronic homelessness. So we really need to put more resources there. And the other thing that was pointed out at the last meeting, too, that I just want to call attention to is how that 8% was equivalent to the amount of administrative costs that were set aside in the HAP fund. So we need to invest more in youth and administration, even though administration is important. More.
Thank you. Thank you. Tommy Kelly, followed by Victor Montenegro.
Tommy Kelly, good afternoon. So Mitch, since you don't have any idea what's going on in your district, let me tell you, because I've been doing the work talking to unhoused people on the ground in the park who are 3 minutes away from your council office in Echo Park that are being displaced. I like to call it the Park Rangers Displacement Project, because they are trying to displace 60 people from this park, and then when we show up to stand up for the rights, like you should be doing, of these unhoused people, they call it off, and they lie, and they say there never was a sweep, even though we have a recording of them putting up sweep notices. LAPD lies. The latest excuse is that Nike's going to record a film a half mile away, so therefore they have to displace the people in the park. It's all just a fucking excuse to to push people out so that you can have lower numbers on your count. Why don't you do something and stand up for the people? You were there, Mitch. You were there. You coward. You did nothing. People are dying. This is a community. They've been there for years.
Before you start, Mr. Montenegro, I was there because I saw some commotion at the lake driving my district every Monday like I always do. So I saw some activity and I looked into what was happening there and I heard about what happened or what was alleged to happen that morning that didn't happen, and we followed up. That's exactly what happened. So anyone, let me speak. I'm out in the district on foot or in my car all the time. So I may be seen anywhere in the 13th district, and that's just not unique. We're all in our districts all the time looking and seeing, and when there's activity going on, we're going to look into it and find out what that activity is about. It's that simple. Mr. Montenegro, 1 minute for item number 4.
Good afternoon. My name is Victor Montenegro. I'm with Volunteers of America with Gang Reduction Youth Development, Rampart 2. And over the years, we've been experiencing a lot of unaccompanied migrant youth coming in our doors, and we really don't have the resources for where to point them to the right direction. I think that they need supportive services because they face many barriers. This population is more vulnerable to be targeted by gangs and experience homelessness. They need more than just gang prevention. They need housing, education services, job placement, legal services, mental health, or health care. And I'm here in support of item number 4. We've been working closely with Salef and Casa Libre and hopes to see what could be done in regards to this.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have Wayne Spindler. These are the last comments that were filled out, comment cards. Wayne Spindler. And you have 1 minute for general public and 2 minutes for all the other items. We'll be followed by Matt Fisher, followed by Billy Mayorga.
No puppet today.
Okay, you can start the clock, and
Right.
here we go.
Serious mode today, yes. So let's see, let's go through this agenda. Don't I get 3 minutes? I get...
2 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general
Yeah,
public.
okay, all right. So I'm on my items. Number 1, fuck number 1. All right. Oh, happy fucking New Year. Number 2, fuck number 2. Number 3, fuck number 3. Number 4, fuck number 4. Number 5, H. I'm here to bitch, bitch, bitch. Where is the audit? You stole the money. Please give the money back. I have a large bag that I brought here today. So if you can just fill it up with some of that small portion of that HHH money, I will take it today down to Skid Row and throw it on the street for everybody to take equally. How about that? Just put it in $1 bills every day at 5 o'clock. Drop it out of the windows over by Wall Street, over by Union Rescue. Just give it to the people. Cash payments, man. You know, it's better than this shit, waiting for an apartment you're never going to get. Mike Bonin and all of his pretty speeches, you know, he ain't going to do shit. In fact, he made a big red circle and he said, no homeless in Venice with the $1 million homes. Didn't you do that, Mike?
You can't
of course you did.
Individual
council
members.
Well, I mean, yeah, but he's a member of the committee. Then we get to Sleazy, Wheezy, Weezer, and Marqueezy, Sleazy, Harris, Dildo, Dawson on number 10. Oh, my God. Temporary shelter, temporary this, temporary that. Everything's an emergency. Just build the damn housing. That's all. So people got a roof over their head. It doesn't look like a shack. It's a real roof. And now for the general comment. I've been very busy over the winter. I just got tossed out of one meeting and threatened. Now, I found out that you're papering over your budget with fraudulent billing from the DWP after the FBI raid. Congratulations, Monica. Monica Rodriguez was a commissioner at the time, and she knows that the Department of Sanitation fraudulently bills people under sewer service charges because they read the meters illegally and illegally calculate it. So I already filed on Monday the legal claim with DWP. I've got the fraudulent sewer service charges. And what did I try to do today? I tried to go to Paul Koretz, the chair of the pause, and I says, Paul? And he said, yes, bitch. And I said, I have this document, and I get thrown out of my ear. So no, Mr. O'Farrell, you're not doing your job. You live in a wealthy neighborhood. You don't give a fuck about the poor.
Matt Fisher. Matt Fisher, items 11, 14, and 15.
Okay, thank you.
2 minutes. Matt Fisher. Is Matt Fisher within earshot? Matt Fisher. Billy Mayorga. Billy Mayorga and Claudia Valle. So if Billy Mayorga is here or Claudia Valle, those are our 3 final comment cards. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Claudia Valle. I'm a program manager for an intervention agency, Breaking Through Barriers to Success, and I'm here in support of item 4. As our agencies also serves unaccompanied minors, we are in support and we work in collaboration with Salif and Casa Libre, and we do see the need. We do provide the case management portion, we provide the mentoring portion, but when it comes to the housing, we're very limited with the resources. So I'm really in high support. I hope that they do get that opportunity. It's a really high need. Sometimes they're asking us for tents, and it's unfortunate that it's limited with the resources that we're able to provide for them. So I'm definitely in support of item 4 here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is Matt Fisher? Last call for, is Mr. Fisher? No. Last call for Matt Fisher. Matt Fisher is not here and has been called several times. Billy Mayorga.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lydia Quintanilla. I'm the program administrator for Casa Libre, and I'm here today interpreting for Billy.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Axel. Soy de Honduras y soy una de las personas que está por aquí, por California.
Good afternoon. My name is Billy, and I'm from Honduras, and I'm one of those individuals that has come here to California.
La oportunidad que se lo está dando aquí es que a los 19 años vamos a salir de Casa Libre.
The opportunity that is given to us at Casa Libre is to stay there until the age of 19 and then leave.
Y no tenemos muchos recursos como para agarrar a veces nuestro propio departamento y entonces ocupamos.
And we lack the resources to be able to obtain housing and get an apartment.
Y sería muy bueno que los ayudaran los jóvenes porque muchos como jóvenes como yo estamos en las calles, viviendo en las calles.
And it would be very good for us to obtain more help because unfortunately there are a lot of youth that are living in the streets currently.
Sería muy amable de su parte que los ayudaran a todos los jóvenes para que nos sigamos y tengamos un mañana mejor y una vida mejor.
It would be very kind for you guys to be able to help us and for the opportunity for us to be able to have better lives here. And that is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having the courage to come to this committee and comment. Thank you. All right, so that completes all of the public comment. Colleagues, what I'd like to do is take the following items on consent if there aren't any objections, and that is items 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. All on consent?
I'd just like to make a brief comment on 3, if I could.
Okay, one brief comment on 3. So let's move all of the items with exception of 3 on consent, and then Mr. Bonham will make a brief comment on 3, and then we'll move that on consent.
Thank you. I just want to sort of explain, while this motion is asking for information from LASA, I wanted to explain why I put it in, because I think we all get remarkably frustrated at the intractability of our homelessness crisis. And I've come to realize that I think that there is a way in which our current process and our current priorities actually creates more chronic homelessness. Right now, most of our resources, because of the way CES is designed, go towards people of the highest acuity, people who are sickest, people who are most likely to die. And those are the most expensive interventions we can have. And the best solution for that, proven again and again, is permanent supportive housing, which is phenomenally successful, but slow and expensive. And the chronically homeless population is about 30% of who's homeless in Los Angeles, which means that 70% of the people who are homeless in Los Angeles are not, at least yet, chronically homeless. And I liken homelessness in Los Angeles to cancer. There's as many forms of homelessness as there are forms of cancer. There's as many different treatments and interventions. And much like in the medical field, there's a fight over who gets the money to fund their research and their intervention. And because what so much of our system does is say to someone who is relatively newly homeless, whether they are in a safe parking program or whether they have recently aged out of the foster system or are among our TAY population, is we can't help you yet because you are not homeless enough. And as a result of that, we are essentially telling people that we're not going to intervene significantly until they are chronically homeless. So we are inadvertently driving up our chronically homeless population. And I don't think it's any surprise that the longer you're on the streets, the more likely you are to self-medicate through drugs, or if you are suffering from some sort of physical or mental disease, to get sicker. And while we certainly cannot divert our attention from those who are most vulnerable and most likely to die, if we do not put more of our resources towards the 70%, we're never going to make any progress. And by not focusing more on that 70% who are not chronically homeless, to belabor my cancer analogy, it's like telling people who've been newly diagnosed with lung cancer, come back when you're stage 4. And that system doesn't work. And so this motion here is asking LASA for some data to figure out what the hell is going on so we can begin to change it. Because we can't have people waiting for a year in safe parking. We need that spot to turn over quickly, the same way we hope bridge housing will, so it becomes available to someone else, so that it's actually a continuum out of there. I have heard that many of the rapid rehousing vouchers, which from what I've done in research works better for people of a lower acuity, particularly if we could match them up with an affordable unit that's being built through some density bonus or something, is they're being given to people of higher acuity who are then falling right back into homelessness after 3 to 6 months. And not only are we not solving the problem for the person of higher acuity, but we're denying the opportunity of fixing the person of the lower acuity. So I'm hoping this will spark a conversation about that and begin to fix that.
No, that's a great point, and I want to thank you and Mr. Harris Dawson for introducing this motion. 1 year ago, we had a report from LASA in this committee where they went over the acuity rationale, and I think it took all of us by surprise because it was so heavily weighted to those that are the most critically and chronically homeless. And oftentimes, those who fall into homelessness or near homelessness, couch surfing, sleeping in cars, etc., also hold jobs that they then lose because they don't have a place. So I love that we're moving forward with revisiting and leading a different model that addresses this very important issue. So thank you for your advocacy and leadership on this. And with that, we'll also take item 3 on consent with the others. No objection, that'll be the order. And I just want to make it clear that all the motions we approved regarding the HHHAP or HAP funding from the state are going to become part of the report back from the CLA and CAO in March. In other words, none of the monies have been approved. We're going to have the report back with our priorities included. We will then hear that report and then move forward approving that report to come to council. And we'll do it in short order. This isn't going to sit for a long time, and we have a sense of urgency about this. So with that, colleagues, I'd like to go to item 2, and we'll hear item 2 for the record.
Item number 2, Homeless Strategy Committee transmittal relative to the Comprehensive Homeless Strategy Quarterly Performance Report for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2018-19.
Okay, and we have Meg Barkley from the CAO's office to give the report. Thank you, Meg.
Good afternoon. Meg Barkley, City Homeless Coordinator in the CAO's office. This is the fourth quarterly performance report for fiscal year 2018-19. As you recall, the Comprehensive Homeless Strategy was updated and enhanced in March of last year, and we completed reporting on the original Comprehensive Homeless Strategy for fourth quarter, and the next report you will see will be the first quarterly report under the Enhanced Comprehensive Homeless Strategy. This report includes key highlights and accomplishments that are summarized in the report, and also there are accomplishments and next steps for each of the strategies that are described in Attachment 1. It also provides updates on the State Homeless Emergency Aid Program, the new Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program, or HAP, the Abridged Home Program, the Enhanced CHS, and reports and metrics for the quarter, which are described in Attachments 2 and 3 of the report. Some key highlights, and again, this report was as of June 30th, 2019. So it's been a while since, but as of June 30th of 2019, the Proposition HHH Housing Challenge request for proposals to allocate $120 million for projects that can demonstrate the ability to develop new units faster or at lower cost. That was released, had been released on, and the submissions were due on June 24th, 2019. As you know, the submissions were received and recommendations were approved by this committee later on last year. As of June 30th of 2019, the Transit-Oriented Communities Program had approved or had more than 15,000 units pending, 3,000 of which are affordable with no additional public subsidy. The PISTOP program grew to 17 sites since it began in 2018, again, as a result of the work of this committee. And the general fund portion of the LA RISE program surpassed its annual enrollment goal by 15% on that employment program. At the time of this report, the HEAP grant was 91% committed, but since then we have 99% of that grant committed well in advance of and in excess of the 50% commitment deadline on January 1st of this year. For the HAP, as it relates to HAP, as you also recall, we were authorized to apply for that grant in December of 2019, and so we're working on that application. The guidance was released by the state on January 3rd. So working on that application to get that in as soon as possible, and again, we appreciate your quick attention to that request. As of June 30th of 2019, we had a total of 1,148 new interim housing beds that have been funded or were under construction. That's grown to more than 1,700 beds since then. And as I said, you will be getting the next report you'll be seeing is the first quarterly performance report under the Enhanced Comprehensive Homeless Strategy, which was considered by the Homeless Strategy Committee in December and has been transmitted for the committee's consideration. As it relates to the metrics, overall we see an increase in the number of households that were placed in permanent housing, but some of the system metrics related to that, like the time from match or assessment to match, or the time in, or the percentage of clients exiting to permanent housing went down last quarter, which I think is a real testament to sort of the system itself being able to house a lot of people, but the market kind of pushing back against that. It's harder to find units to place people in the private market, and I think we'll see a lot of those metrics going up as Proposition HHH projects are opening up and those PSH units become available.
And Meg, that was one of my questions, which you just answered. So you see that as an availability issue?
I do. I think it's a market issue. The system itself is increasing the placements, but I think that it's taking longer and it's becoming more difficult. I think that we found a lot of different ways to place people in units in the private market, but the units themselves are we're tapping out that source as we go forward. It's becoming more difficult to find them. So that's sort of a summary of this last quarterly performance report, and I'm open to questions if you have them.
Thank you. I just have a couple then, since you answered the one, which we need to pay really close attention to, especially as more HHH units come online. And we're wrapping up with very low income housing in a lot of places as well, rent covenanted. So we'll see how that, changes the mix. In terms of the goal for employment and connecting jobs with those who are getting back on their feet, experiencing homelessness, what can you say about that?
I think we've seen the LA Rise program be pretty successful in the idea of putting people in subsidized employment in social enterprise, where the goal of the business is not just to make a profit, but is also to serve the people who they're employing. And they've had a really, really successful time not only employing people in those subsidized jobs, but moving a lot of people into unsubsidized employment. So just
like the
regular
Chrysalises of the world.
Actually, Chrysalis, in some cases, those are, but yes, so those are subsidized jobs, but yes, or even just in regular jobs in the private market, people, because Chrysalis provides those supports. They are a social enterprise in the jobs that they do provide. They also provide supports, and part of the reason that they're a business is to assist their employees to develop skills so that they can get employment even outside of the jobs that Chrysalis has to offer. And I think we've seen Chrysalis and other agencies under LA Rise become more successful at transitioning people into jobs that don't require that, either like the subsidy for their wages, but also the added supports of the social enterprises provide.
And I don't believe that this is a metric yet, but it certainly needs to be really fast. And this is kind of where everything's headed, I think, in terms of what we're hearing from the state, and that is homelessness reduction goals. And where are some of these committees, maybe the strategy committee, where are we in conversation about that, especially with all these projects coming along?
Yes, and I've looked into that on a couple of different occasions with LASA and the data. It's very difficult to look at overall homeless the overall homeless population, given the amount that the role that inflow especially is, and especially increasingly playing in our overall the population of people experiencing homelessness in the city. I think what we could look at, and I'd like to start looking at with the leads now that we have one QPR in the new strategy under our belt, we'll be working on the next one, is looking at benchmarks for either the target populations we know about, the numbers from the PIT count of each target population, what proportion of that population that we know about can we serve with these programs, what is our goal as a proportion of the overall population. So if it's a family homelessness program, we know how many homeless families there are, and is this program going to set a target for addressing 10%, 20% of that specific population, and then seeing what those programs can add up to across all of the strategies. It's really difficult and to factor in because there's so much we don't know about the inflow and how many people are going to be. As we've seen, you've heard, I'm sure, the number of people housed every day is exceeded by the number of people who become homeless every day. And I know there's been a lot more focus on that second number, but it's really difficult to look at an overall, but I'm interested in looking at setting goals and targets across all of the strategies now that we have some time. As you recall, the Enhanced Comprehensive Homeless Strategy sort of reshuffled the original strategies and is putting a lot of strategy leads together under single strategies to work together and to see how their work contributes to one another. And so having had some time to adjust to that as opposed to departments having their own individual strategies and working on them independently, I think that there is some opportunity, and we'll have an opportunity to have that sort of more comprehensive goal setting conversation.
Okay. I mean, I just think it's human nature that,
of course,
we set a goal,
yes,
and we put all the measures in place to reach that goal, and that is to get people housed. And I think we could get more out of the data that comes from the homeless count, especially since we do it every year, and how that could inform our way forward with actually reducing homelessness verifiably.
Yes.
So I'd like to continue that conversation and really push LASA toward developing reduction goals as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you. Colleagues, comments, questions for Meg? No? All right, thank you. So we'll note and file this report with, if there aren't objections, and that'll take us to our next item, which is item number 4. So before we have comments from HCID and the county may be here. I don't know if anyone from LASD is here. Salif, certainly. I just want to say a few things about this, this measure. So, CLA, if you could please read the item.
Item number 4, Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department to report relative to an analysis of policies to address homelessness among unaccompanied homeless immigrant minors and the outreach and services that can be provided, scheduled pursuant to council action of August 2019.
Thank you. Often when we talk about the broad conditions and dynamics of homelessness, we don't include unaccompanied minors. We had a whole conversation and a push to include more youth services in our eventual adoption of the HAP funding and to allocate more funding for youth, which I'm a huge believer in. But we don't take into account often enough the fact that there are probably hundreds of unaccompanied minors who are homeless or vulnerable out there through the basic fact that they fled their home country in order to survive. And they're being re-traumatized on the streets of Los Angeles every day. They're being trafficked, they're being jumped into gangs, they're completely vulnerable to the elements, and more. So it's important that we don't leave behind this very vulnerable population that is here legally seeking an asylum hearing. And we just can't forget that. And that was the impetus for this motion. We've fought for programs that reduce poverty and homelessness for women, children, immigrants, all at-risk populations. So I think we need to elevate this at-risk population as well, because I also think that it will underscore even further the need for services for all youth who are homeless, regardless of immigration status. And so I think that it's a really important matter that we take up, and we have to, I think, depend on our better selves to take care of this population. They're among the most vulnerable of all. They're under threat of being threatened with deportation, etc., by those who sometimes would pretend that they're going to protect them, and the opposite is often true. So we've had the great fortune of working with Clínica Romero, Carasan, Salaf, Homes Unidos, and El Rescate, and our partners with the county in helping to take care of this vulnerable population. So having one of the most diverse districts in the city, and we know that in every district across the city, we have unaccompanied minors who are very vulnerable. So that's what this is all about to me, and it's a big, important piece of the homelessness puzzle. So with that, I'd like to invite HCID and whomever else is here. I think Jocelyn, I think you're here for this as well, from Salaf, to the table. And if anyone is here from, in Jasmine, and if anyone is here from the county, that you're welcome as well to give this report. I'll start with you, Matt.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Matthew Sharp, Housing Community Investment Department. We're here to very briefly summarize for you the report back you have in writing as part of your agenda package, the transmittal that our department has submitted to you, and to read some amended recommendations into the record, and more important than anything, answer any questions you have. You had the opportunity to hear from a number of the public stakeholders during public comment earlier today. At our table, we have Salvadoran American Leadership Education Fund representative, County Office of Immigrant Affairs, and I want to just provide the simplest summary of what you have in front of you, and then let the others introduce themselves and see if we have any questions that we can help answer in order to support your consideration of the recommendations in front of you. So since the adoption of the motion, our Department of Housing Community Investment, in concert with CD13, County Office of Immigrant Affairs, a number of the nonprofit partners, including LA Homeless Services Authority, who's represented here today as well, and LUSD, have conferred to discuss what intergovernmental cooperation needs to be initiated, what activities are currently underway, how a small amount of resources could be deployed to initiate a pilot project to deliver some results that may provide a pathway for us going forward as a city to best support this population in line with our values and adopted council and mayoral motions. So we have, again, as I said, formed this working group, entertained a variety of opportunities, and fully endorsed the efforts underway that you can hear about again in brief form from the county that are summarized thoroughly in the departmental transmittal that you have here today. And we're excited to get this cooperation deepened and to bring some results that can be considered alongside the larger questions, as I think Meg effectively laid out in the last presentation, to think about how to allocate resources to solve the challenges in each of these subpopulations that merit attention and need help. And so with that, I wanted to pause, let our partners introduce themselves, and then see what questions you have, and then I'd like to read the amended recommendations into the record for your consideration.
Terrific, thank you. And let's pause for just a quick moment, and I understand we have someone from LAUSD here. Please, there's room, so please step forward and join into the panel. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Start with Jasmine.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasmine Tovar. I am the Educational and Program Manager at the Salvadoran American Leadership Educational Fund. I'm a social worker, and through SALEF, I've been serving as Program Director at Casa Libre and working with various different unaccompanied minors.
Good afternoon. My name is Leticia Alvarado with the Homeless Education Office from LAUSD. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Denise Miranda.
My name is Jocelyn Duarte. I'm the Executive Director of the Salvadoran American Leadership and Educational Fund, and I have been working very closely with all of the folks at this table to be able to target and help this population.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Rigoberto Reyes, Executive Director for the County of Los Angeles Office of Immigrant Affairs in the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. I'm here in support of the motion and to answer any questions in regard to an initiative we have ongoing at the county level to learn about this population, how many kids are in the Los Angeles area, what their needs are, and how the county can provide them with the wraparound services such as mental health, education, legal services I was mentioned earlier, and clearly working even more closely with the city and other partners to ensure that these vulnerable unaccompanied minors get the best help available to them and their families.
Great, thank you. Do you want to just give the broad brushstrokes of how this is intended to work and SALEF's role specifically in this?
Well, I wanted to share with you that the Office of Refugee Resettlement from October 2018 to September 2019 released approximately 8,422 unaccompanied minors throughout California. Los Angeles being the diverse community that it is, a large portion of those unaccompanied minors are here, they're in our schools, and so they were either released to a family member or to a care facility. And as you can imagine, this population, it's very hard to track, and so because they have a lot of challenges, and so we are in full support of focusing the focus of working together within multiple jurisdictions at all government levels with LAUSD, the county, the city. And so we think that it's really important to focus on this population, because if we serve these children, it'll definitely be very beneficial for the residents of the city and the county. So what we are looking to do is work with this population in a 2-year case management system that will allow us to focus on migrant take and help them overcome the challenges of housing, educational service, job placement training, healthcare services, mental health services, and like you heard from a lot of our community partners, preventative service around gang prevention. This pilot will help us look at how we can best serve migrant Tay with interrupted, formal schooling, trauma, or other unique instructional or non-instructional needs. And, we want to thank you, Councilman O'Farrell, Chairman, in this committee, because I know that you do a lot of work in your districts and across the city in trying to bring these resources to vulnerable communities. And so we thank you for taking this time to address this need in item 4.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, you're from...
One thing we learned back in 2018, the summer of 2018, during the separation of children and their families due to the zero tolerance policy, is that these minors, as they come and stay in the Office of Refugee Resettlement shelters, and once they get out of the shelters, they need some very wraparound services. But most importantly, we learned that we have to proactively go to them because of the fear they have, immigration, language, culture. They will not come forward unless we go to them. So we created a work group of a number of county departments that would do such a thing. I'm really glad to see that through this work, we may end up with a good case navigation system, we call them navigators, that could serve as a liaison with our office so that we can work closely to make sure that these wraparound services are made available. I mentioned mental health. It's certainly at the top of the priority list. We have those services. Legal representation, we are working on the LA Justice Fund 2.0 that could address some of these issues. Certainly job development, housing is at the top of our priority list. Those who go and find employment may need assistance with minimum wage theft enforcement. We have those services at the county. So really, at the end of the day, it's for us to assess what these minors and the families, because I want to emphasize that the families need the support as much as the minors so that they can make the best out of the limited resources they have. We need to know what those needs are, how we can approach them in a way that they will be receptive, and then ensure that they get those services so they can do better.
I have a question, then we just continue, and Jasmine, I'd like to hear from you as well. But so SALEF is basically handling the operations in terms of lodging for the unaccompanied minors that we identify and get housing for. You're managing that element entirely at Casa Libre, is my understanding.
That is correct.
Right. And so if you could talk a little bit about how that system works and why it was so important for SALEF to take over the management of that key operation.
Okay. So first of all, I want to start by saying a little bit about Casa Libre really briefly for folks who are not aware. Casa Libre is a group home license. We have license up to have 11 youth from the ages 12 to 17. Because we're seeing, again, a border crisis in our borders, we started identifying youth who are about to age out. And if they age out in detention, and we know in every given 3 months, there's approximately 10,000 youth in detention. They were probably going to get deported or get lost into adult detention facilities. So Casa Libre has been serving. We are not an OR facility, an Office of Refugee Resettlement. We do not get any funding. However, we do accept youth. So what we're seeing is we got a waiver extension that allowed us to have youth until the age of 19. Past the age of 19, we had no resources. And it was very challenging to navigate specifically the housing TAY services because as we've mentioned, our youth are escaping extreme violence. There's also trauma of migration, trauma in being in government facilities for months. I have youth at Casa Libre that were in detention for 8, 9, 10 months. So it is very challenging for me to try to connect them to resources where there's a language barrier. there's a cultural barrier, and then it's a government agency or a city agency when they are very traumatized by that experience. So my primary job at Casa Libre has been supporting the youth with cultural sensitive programming, with providing them with mental health services, with being trauma informed, with having more patience and understanding how these youth are going to navigate the LAUSD district or a school. Many of my youth probably went to second grade, and now we're asking them to go to school when they're still learning a little bit about, like, they can really, many of them cannot read in Spanish and I don't know in English. Additionally to that, we're working really closely with the gang prevention programs that are all been talking today, because we recognize historically in the central LA area we do have a problem. And what I do want to emphasize to everyone in this room, this is not the first group of unaccompanied minors that have come to our city, right? We saw that in the 80s, we saw that in the 90s, and we want to make sure that with this group of, this cohort, I don't know if cohort is a proper term, but this generation of unaccompanied minors, that we are really intentionally working with them to ensure that they're successful and we do not continue having the same gang challenges that we have in the city.
And with that, you mentioned education, so maybe we could hear from LAUSD in terms of these gap educational opportunities for kids who haven't had an education even in their country of origin, and how that's dealt with and what the relationship is and what you know about where these populations are from your perspective.
So thank you. So currently, right now, overall, LAUSD has identified about 12,000 students experiencing homelessness, 12,000. Out of those are self-identifying. Most of them are actually in local district central, what for us is considered downtown central LA area, as my counterpart were saying. So in addition to that, we're seeing a lot of these populations co-located in certain areas. In this case, the biggest challenge has been the educational barrier and having the lack of educational advocacy that they need to navigate the district system, or even just the educational system that they never been exposed to. So this is a new, thing for them. So for LAUSD, we have specialized student support programs that are trying to provide the educational advocacy and awareness information that have never had. However, there's still a lot of supports needed. So one of our areas right now that is heavily concentrated has been Belmont area, that around area. So that's where we're really trying to focus our efforts at this point.
And I've heard that there are good numbers of unaccompanied minors that go to Belmont or that are in that school
area.
Capture area. And so Casa Libre is in close proximity. It is. Correct. So that's also a helpful factor there.
Correct. So one of the things, Belmont, what is Roybal, those areas, in addition to, I know most of them are attending to Casa Libre or just staying around that area.
And LAUSD's approach is to capture everyone, undocumented or not.
Correct. So we don't care the status
or not into the existing programming for intensive education where there's been a gap.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So for us, we try to ensure that it's not a legal status that we're worried about. However, that is the fear that we have to face, especially for our families. Just identifying piece, they assume that we're going to give information to other agencies. However, we have to provide the reassurance that we do not. So us identifying or them identifying themselves as experiencing homelessness is the first step to receive the services, but really is educating that it's confidential status and it would not be disclosed with any government agency.
And do you believe that this program that we hopefully are about to fund will help with those goals in concert with what you do?
We need to build trust, and I think one of the biggest thing is that if they already have working relationships with certain agencies, we have that professional and personal trust. Therefore, at that point, we can provide the additional support and come in and support them.
Terrific. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Duarte, you had something else to add. Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a really
Of
quick
course.
question
Sure.
of LA Unified? So among the partners, so this is a wonderful working collaborative that's been established here. Have you standardized a process of working with other homeless service agencies to address the concerns of those families that are self-identifying?
Absolutely. So one of our other subpopulations, as you know, for families experiencing homelessness are those living in hotels and motels. So North Valley Caring Services in Council District Women 7, North is doing an amazing job of providing food bank on Fridays. They do a lot of community outreach. So it's really important for us to be able to identify our families, that we work with community agencies, because it goes hands in hand, whether it is through their school or community. So yes.
So is that the only other example that you have so far? Is where, because I know we co-located at North Valley Caring Services, but are there other? My point is because I think given the critical mass that you've identified with LA Unified, and it kind of goes back to the conversation that we're having over the acuity, but when these families are self-identifying, this is an early and easy opportunity for us to help provide them support. I know that's what we're doing in my district in the pilot with North Valley Caring Services and our local district schools there in the Northeast Valley. But, you know, again, I think this is part of the critical mass that we should probably address first. And so my question is how has that been expanding from LA Unified's perspective to help make sure that we're capturing those families?
So we actually have a contract with LASA and LACO, so our County of Education office, where we have coordinated entry site systems, counselors who are located at these coordinated entry site systems, both family and youth. So there really are hands-on on the referral intake process, where either families or youth are coming in, and we're linking them back to educational entities. So putting in the whole loop to the circle, whether it is housing resources and them linking to educational resources, or they're coming from the schools and them linking them to housing resources. So that's where across all the counties. So we have 7 identified counselors in each SPA district. So that's really what we're trying to work, because we know the need and collaboration is so important. So yes.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
12,000 homeless students.
I just wanted to reiterate that Salef has been managing and operating Casa Libre since about April, May of 2019. So we've taken over operations for 2019.
And that's so critical because it's the only licensed facility
The only licensed
in the vicinity, in the area, in the
that
region.
serves this specific population.
For this specific population. And we know that it has had some challenges in the past.
Yes.
And so we have to make sure that we can utilize an existing licensed facility with good management. And really that's essentially where Salef has come in. And I just want to reassure anyone who might be hearing this or listening who has their criticisms, whatever they may be, about Casa Libre and some of the really bad press that they've had in the past. Don't connect what we're doing now and the good that you have been doing now for a number of months. Don't confuse that with some of the instances of the past, and that's why it's so important. We can't just out of whole cloth make up a new licensed facility out of somewhere that doesn't exist, and then still serve the need that we have. So I just wanted to make sure that that's well understood. Yeah, thank you. And Mr. Sharp, anything to add?
No, other than we appreciate the opportunity to present this intergovernmental collaboration.
Thank you. We're certainly happy as well. Mr.
Quick question. Very excited to hear about the work that you all are doing, and it's super inspiring. I think some of you might be able to guess what I'm going to ask, and that's about Manual Arts High School. So Manual Arts High School actually has a plurality of Central American students, one of the highest concentrations anywhere in the entire United States. Central American communities. That neighborhood that Manual Arts is in and the school is right on the border of, it's actually not in my district, it's in Council District 9. But it's, it's all right there. That I represent the west part of that neighborhood. So I wanted to hear about what level of penetration or access you've been able to make in that area, and if our either 9 or 8 we've been helpful to you, or we can be helpful to you in the future.
Can I answer that quickly?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Just add, so thank you for that quick question. So I want to mention that last week I got a call from Fulbright Charters in the Watts, South LA area, and they found us in the same LAUSD listserv of folks that work with unaccompanied minors, and they were very much in need of understanding how to provide services, including housing, and how we can support unaccompanied minors or migrant youth or newcomer youth in the South LA area. So in our terms, we started conversations, and I've set up meetings with counselors to ensure that we are not necessarily just focusing in Central LA, because when you think of the Central American community, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But the reality is we're everywhere, including South LA and Compton.
I wanted to add that, as SALEF, we have an expertise in Central America, and so we are very aware of the migratory patterns and how that plays out in the city of Los Angeles and throughout the county. I know that as part of our programming, Padres en Acción, we are at Manual Arts, and usually what we do at a school site, because we've identified it having a high population of Central Americans, is going in and working with the parents and teaching them about advocacy, and we go and we survey the school and ask them what are some of the topics and things that they would like to learn about, what resources. And we have really, in the past, 2 or 3 years have really changed the way that we are talking with our communities in regards to resources. We're not only focusing on stellar students and giving them scholarships, but we're also helping our students that are experiencing homelessness, that are experiencing food insecurity, that need access to mental health, and all of these resources. So we have become a vehicle in taking these resources to these schools. So we definitely have plans, and definitely if we can partner with some people in your district to be able to serve them, we would definitely appreciate that support on behalf of your office.
Absolutely. Count us in. Thank you.
And I have I'm going to run through a few quick questions, and the hour's getting late. Yeah, and Mr. Ru has some questions. So you go first, and then we'll try to move this along. We have one more quick item after this one, so we'll try to close this meeting by 5 o'clock. Mr. Ru.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say thank you for your leadership on this matter, Mr. Chair. I did follow this in the press, and I was very concerned, and I am so glad that we are a council that does work. I mean, unfortunately, this is the only one for unaccompanied minors who are immigrants, and we've seen this in the press too often in all the tragedies that we're seeing. So I'm so glad that we are a council in a city that welcomes all. And thank you for your work. I was very concerned about what was happening on this. And 12,000 homeless students in LAUSD. Isn't it 17,000, or did that number come down?
So last year we identified, so again, when we're talking about self-reporting, right? So there's a student housing questionnaire right now that every year, every annually, our students have to identify. So right now, as of our point in time count for us is 12,000, but we fear that the biggest issue has been the fear of identifying that this information is going to be released to government entities, and that's really where we're trying to do our advocacy and ensuring that our counselors and our staff, our designated liaisons at each school are able to just secure and address those issues that, no, that is a confidential status that once you identify, you obtain, but not that's the first step, but two, you also qualify for services. And that's really the main thing that we're trying to advertise. So yes.
And again, thank you for all of your work and to all the departments, because this again goes to the census, because I was under the impression, I know a previous number was 17,000 students. Whether it's 12,000 or 17,000, that's just ridiculous that our students are homeless. But reporting is so important, and the census count is coming up. And as we know, if there is a huge drop of 17 to 12, I don't think these students got housed. I think it's a matter of they're scared to report. And that is a bad reflection on the upcoming census count. But thank you for your work.
I just wanted to add that as a community, we came together and built a trilateral partnership with Clínica Monseñor Romero Salef and Casa Libre. And as you can see, we had some of our community partners here today because we realized that this is an issue that impacts our community in high levels, and so that we are addressing with full transparency the issues that were taking place at Casa Libre, and we're doing it together as a community and holding each other accountable.
And again, thank you, Mr. Chair, for your leadership on this. As an immigrant, thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. Thank you. So we can kind of do this rapid fire if you want, so we can keep moving. Just 3 questions, which I've crossed out most of mine, but you can ballpark this. How much total funding would be needed to provide adequate shelter and assistance to the 8,000 plus, well, I don't want to say that because that's the state of California, but to the unaccompanied minors in the Los Angeles region? What do you think? I want to provide some context here.
Well, I know that for this, the funding that has been allocated for this 2-year program, our goal is going to be to reach about 30 youth
30.
and have them transition into permanent housing.
So
That
this-
is our goal.
This will take care, pretty good care, of up to 30 youth who currently don't have any care, but we know that that's just the tip of an iceberg.
And we're going to come before you and be able to report back and let you know how is it, where are the gaps, where are the opportunities where we can, like Rigo said, be liaisons, right, to the county and the services that are already available to this community to be able to serve as many as possible.
And this is a new partnership and a collaboration because historically this has been the role of the county, that the county serves.
That is correct.
Right. So, but it's good to move in this direction because we can't just have this artificial wall. Oh, the county takes care of that, but we're focused on this because we're dealing with people, humanity, youth, kids, children. So, okay. And then, how many? So you already answered the other question. 30 minors will be provided services with this funding. Terrific. All right, if there are any more questions, we'll move on. But Mr. Sharp has the amendments to make before we approve the item, and I think you're going to make those amendments verbally.
Mr. Chair, members of the public, please bear with me as I read the following paragraphs into the record. We appreciate your patience and to enable Mr. Villanueva to carefully transcribe. We request the committee consider the following recommendations. Approve the report with the following amendments. 1. Replace recommendations 1A and B with the following. 1A, instruct the general manager of the Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department or designee to enter into a sole source contract with the Salvadoran American Leadership and Education Fund, SALEF, for an amount not to exceed $100,000 from Council Community Projects Casa Libre line item in general city purposes in the FY 1920 adopted budget for a term not to exceed 12 months, commencing on or about April 1st, 2020, and ending on or about March 31st, 2021, to provide case management and housing navigation services to migrant transitional age youth in Los Angeles that have been released from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Refugee Resettlement, subject to funding availability and compliance with all applicable city contracting requirements and approval of the city attorney as to form. B, authorize a controller to, 1, establish a new account, 43S861 SALEF, Salvadoran American Leadership and Education Fund, within the HCLA General Fund Program 10A/43 and appropriate $100,000 upon receipt of transfer. 2, transfer from Fund 100/56 to Fund 10A/43 as follows. From Fund 100/56, account 903, account name Council Community Projects, Casa Libre Freedom House, Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law, amount $100,000 to Fund 10A/43, account 43S861, account name SALEF - Salvadoran American Leadership, amount $100,000. C, authorize the general manager of HCLA or designee to prepare controller instructions and make any necessary technical amendments consistent with the mayor and council action on this matter, subject to the approval of city administrative officer, and instruct controller to implement the instructions. 2, our second amended recommendation is to add the following new recommendations to the transmittal in front of you, beginning with instruct HCID 2, identify ways the city programs and services can be integrated where appropriate into the LA County Office of Immigrant Affairs pilot program. 2, support effective implementation and assessment of the pilot program. 3, utilize the city's 16 Family Source Center staff liaisons to assist unaccompanied, undocumented minors and sponsors to navigate programs and services in the city. And 4, report on the implementation of the pilot program.
Very well articulated, sir. Thank you. We got all that, and it's in writing. And so without objection, we will approve the item as amended and move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your great work on this. Thank you.
If I may add something real quickly, I want to say thank you to everyone in the room for the support. Casa Libre has an open door policy. I encourage everyone to come, meet the kids. We actually have 3 of our residents sitting in the back. Feel free to come, and we will love folks to come see and learn a little bit about the project. Thank you.
Terrific, and welcome. Welcome, everyone. All right, so that brings us to item 5, the HHH quarterly report. Please read the item.
Item number 5, Proposition HHH Administrative Oversight Committee Report relative to the quarterly report for fiscal years 2017-18 and 2018-19 Proposition HHH bond issuances from July 1st to September 30, 2019.
Thank you. So please go ahead and state your name, and we can hear the report. Thanks.
Hi, good afternoon. Elise Madsen, Office of the City Administrative Officer. The report before you today includes the quarterly reports for both the Proposition HHH fiscal year 17-18 and 18-19 bond issuances. Our office is requesting that this committee and the council receive and file this report, as no action is being requested at this time. This quarter covers expenditures through September 30th, 2019. Bless you.
Yeah.
As of this quarter, a total of $83.3 million has been expended from the Prop HHH program overall. This includes $73 million from the Prop HHH Permanent Supportive Housing Program and $10.3 million from the Prop HHH Facilities Program. I'll go ahead and turn it over to HSID for their update, and then I can provide an update on the Facilities Program if you would like.
My name is Andre Perry. I'm the manager of the HHH program in the Taxes on Bond Unit, and I have with me Ed Gibson, who's the Director of Development and Finance. In terms of high-level overview, 24 projects were in the two PEPs. At the time of this quarterly report, 21 projects had closed their financing, with 19 projects under construction and 2 projects that were waiting to have their notice to proceed issued. At the time of this report, we had 6 projects that were asking for HHH extension. This committee has, this City Council has since approved those on December the 10th, 2019. At the time of this report, we had 4 projects that were pending, or moving towards construction closing, at this point, all 4 of those have closed. Those are Emerson Apartments, Missouri Place Apartments, Summit View Apartments, and Path Villas Montclair Gramercy. Additionally, there were several projects a few projects that we had special focus on. At the time, 88th in Vermont was identified as a high level of construction completion. As you're well aware, that project has been completed. The mayor did a press release, I think it was last week, on January the 6th. In terms of existing challenges we have with respect to this PEP, that includes an outstanding CEQA challenge with respect to the project Path Villas Hollywood, the motel property, as I mentioned, the 2 projects, West 3rd and Broadway, that are still waiting to receive their NTP, as well as Building 205 and 208. That concludes my report.
Quick question, any changes since the report was published that we need to know about?
No, I would say that in terms of upcoming closings, we have about 9 that we expect to close within the next 90 days of today's date.
Okay.
But outside of that, no.
So we'll hear that next committee hearing?
And we also have a quarterly report which will take place this Friday before the COC, so with updated numbers.
Right, we're just a little bit behind right now because of the holidays, so we'll catch up next month.
I will just clarify real quick. He mentioned in his report that the 4 closings took place since the last quarterly report.
Okay,
so,
so the 4 closings, since the last report.
Yes.
Okay, that's the one
Yeah.
since, okay, great.
Very good.
Anything, okay, that's the gist of it?
I can give a quick update on our facilities program.
Sure.
The city-sponsored Navigation Center project in Council District 8 is under construction with a completion date of June 2020. 16 of our 17 Prop HHH Facilities Program project contracts have been executed. Our remaining contract is in active negotiations, and as of this quarterly report, 2 of our projects have broken ground and 10 more are expected to break ground in the next quarter. The remaining 5 projects are expected to break ground by March of this year. 3 additional city-sponsored projects were authorized in the 18-19 issuance. The Council District 4 Gardner Library project, as you all know, is complete and operational. The remaining city-sponsored projects are navigation centers being constructed in Council Districts 2 and 15. Construction for both projects has begun and will be completed at the end of January 2020 and March 2020, respectively.
I will just add a quick comment on behalf of the Innovation Challenge for Housing. headed up by the mayor's office, technically supported by HSID. I expect them to come give an update on the report themselves at a later meeting. But to date, they have awarded 6 development teams. They're expecting to do approximately 1,001 units. As of last Friday, January 10th, they executed 6 MOUs moving forward. Inside there's already projects that have obtained site control. So there are 4 sites under site control and another 5 that they're looking at that are in escrow while they're doing their due diligence currently.
Okay.
So
6 MOUs executed.
6 out of 6.
6 out of 6. Okay.
All MOUs are executed, 6 out of 6. There was a pushback due to the holidays of about 10 days, and people adjusted their timelines. I think they had some surprises about, how some of the funding works, so they gave everybody another chance to adjust their schedules. So things were pushed back about 2 weeks across the schedule, but the completion dates still remain December of 2022.
Okay.
As their target.
And how many total units is that again?
It's 1,001 at this moment.
Okay. Which is the number, there's no change in that number from the last hearing.
They were saying about 1,000 before, so very close.
We got a bonus.
Yes. At the vote, we have a bonus. It'll all be dependent on each site and how many it can hold when you do the final count. Right. That's the
terrific. Thank you. Colleagues. Good. It's a good report. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, so we'll note and file that without objection, and that completes the meeting. Thank you.